If you love talking about cats, but your friends and family are kind of over it, this is the podcast for you. Join your hosts, Danielle Stray Woolley and Elizabeth Calico Gearhart, on the Jersey PodCats, where everyday cat lovers share funny stories, challenging situations, and ask their questions about cats. All right, let's get right into this episode.
Hi, everyone. This is Danielle Woolley.
And I'm Elizabeth Gearhart, and we are the Jersey,
Jersey
PodCats.
PodCats.
Yay! We did it. That was pretty good. I haven't even practiced for a while. So Danielle and I have been recording when we can because we're both very busy business women. So we're just going to do a catch-up episode.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
So, we had a lot going on my end, at least, so we can kind of ping pong around because that's my favorite style, as you know. As far as like the rescue stuff, even my own personal cats. And I know you had some cat stories too. So why don't we start with yours? Let's start with Lily.
So I was sitting in my sunroom, and my backyard is woods and there's some overgrown underbrush. It's kind of wild. There's a little bit of yard and then the wood starts. And so I was talking to my girlfriend on the phone, and I saw from the underbrush this little fox stuck its face in. You probably can't see me. That's okay. There's a big cat.
I'm smiling like a dork because there's a
big
cathealth
cat for right now,
like a flag.
So
whoever's on YouTube, you could see it, but
yeah,
you can't. Just a random tail flopping around.
Yeah. So this little fox face poked through the underbrush, and it was like framed perfectly. It was the most adorable thing. And I was going to take a picture of it because I was on my phone. And then Lily, my little girl cat, she's not very big. She's like 8 or 9 pounds, just came running and went after the fox like she was going to attack it. I'm like, Lily. So I jumped up and ran outside screaming, of course, because I thought the fox would eat Lily.
What do they call that? Isn't that like Napoleon complex? So this tiny little cat's like, I'm going to get you.
I guess I don't think it was a big fox though, but they're so territorial about their yard, like these cats. And so anyway, so the fox ran away, thank goodness. But I was just like, Lily, what are you thinking? Like, these cats. And then my other cat story is, okay, this is a crazy story. So Thursday, I took Max to the vet, and it's in this hard place to get to down in Raritan, New Jersey. It's a specialist vet. It's a dermatologist and allergist, but I like this guy because he's able to solve problems that other vets can't solve. Like,
I think it's funny that you say down in Raritan, and I'm thinking, wow, all the way up in Raritan because I'm done by the shore.
And so, but like Max had an ear infection, and I took him to my regular vet, and they gave me some stuff. It didn't help at all. And so then when I took him to my allergist vet, he took a sample and he looked at it under the microscope, and he said, oh, it's this. And he gave him ear stuff that fixed it. So I don't want to completely destroy this relationship with this vet, but I told him, first of all, it's really hard to get here because there's this really crazy roundabout on the highway that you have to go through. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And it's always really confusing. I had my daughter with me to help navigate.
Because the signs, and for anybody who doesn't live in New Jersey, like aside from the roundabouts, if you need to make a left-hand turn in many areas, you're not allowed. It's illegal. You have to like go past where you have to go and then take a U-turn / jug handle on the right to then cross over and take another U-turn jug handle to then go to where you wanted to go left. So if you miss your turn, it's a huge deal. You're going to like waste 20 minutes getting back to where you needed.
Right. And the roundabouts like have all this traffic coming in together.
And they say north, south, east, west, and you're like, which north, which south?
Yeah, going out on and it's so confused. So my daughter navigated. So we got there and we waited for an hour for this guy. And my daughter waited in the car. And finally, I went up to him. There were a bunch of dogs in there. And I was like, I'm sorry, I need to go wait in my car. I can't handle the smell of the dogs.
Oh, stinky dogs. I love dogs, but they stinky.
Well, and dogs are okay, but when they're sick, like they can really smell. So dogs at a vet, and it's a small room. So they did see him, and he's fine. So we got more medicine for him, like refills. And I told the vet, I said, I'm not sure I'm going to come back here unless I absolutely have to. I can do the 1-year recheck at my regular vet if that's okay with you, because it's just so hard to get here. And he was like, yeah, I understand. But I think I might take him back there just because that vet is so much better. But anyway,
Does it matter if you try? So only because I do this because I have a lot of appointments just for myself medically.
Right.
And then I tried to do this when I have to take my cats to the vet, is try to always get the very first appointment of the day if possible, because then it's less likely to be running as late. Just
So
a little
that would,
tip for everybody out there.
yeah, I do that with my regular doctors that are close, but this one I have to go down 287, and 287 can be a parking lot at 8 in the morning,
True.
That's the only problem. But
All right,
anyways,
everybody who's not from New Jersey, please do not tune out just yet. I promise there's more to
so
the story. We'll stop talking
there-
about traffic.
there's more to the story. So the next day, I had to go to a special doctor that I go to, and it was in the same area, but in a different spot. And there was no problem, no roundabouts, no traffic, no nothing. And then I told my GPS, go home afterwards. Literally 3 minutes from my doctor's office, I passed that vet's office. I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have come this way to the vet and then just made like a U-turn further up, like Danielle was talking about, and maybe it would have taken an extra 5 minutes.
Okay, fine. One more side story, and then I promise you can finish yours. So for those
I'm
who
done.
do
Done. That's all.
for those who don't know me personally, part of what I do for my consulting is I work for a company where we have software and we speak about operations and best practices for field service companies to run their business. I'm obsessed with optimizing your time. So like that's like my area of expertise. So I love figuring out like, okay, if you have to go here between this time and there between that time, and this person can only like this vet's only open at these hours, like I'll literally sit there and plan because nothing drives me crazier than ping-ponging or like wasting time driving back and forth. And like when people do it, they're like, oh, I'm gonna run to Costco. And then they're like, and then later I'm going to ShopRite, just as an example.
I know.
I'm like, but ShopRite's on the way to Costco. Why are you doing that?
I know. And I didn't know these were so close. I'm like, I wonder if they would let me bring the cat into my doctor's appointment. Anyway, anyway, but yeah, I agree with you, Danielle. Like if I'm going to go out, I lump all of my errands together in one trip.
Yeah. And you want to do what's least stressful for the animal too. So like just, joking aside. So, even though there was a specialist that I was going to take one of my cats to a while back, I decided against it because just getting them like at home, they're fine in the carrier. But then as soon as I get them in the car, they start going crazy. So why would I have them in the car for extra time? So you're lucky that your cats are okay with traveling.
Well, Max is. The other cats don't really like it. Max
he traveled when he was young because he came from far away.
Well, he traveled when he was young, but also I remember when he was at the worst of it, where he had scratched all the fur off his face and he was just bleeding from it was awful. I literally in 1 month had 48 vet visits and phone calls and medication changes. So he was
sounds like my typical month for me.
Yeah. So, and then one last thing about my cat. So Cushy's been sneezing. I was going to take him to the vet, but he just hates it. And I had hurt my back. Honestly, I couldn't carry him. So I canceled that appointment. And I said, one vet said at one point I could try Zyrtec on him for this. And, Max was on Zyrtec for a long time. Now he doesn't need it anymore. And so Cushy's on Zyrtec and he's been sneezing and congested, and the Zyrtec is
allergies are really bad right now. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are my cat stories. Let's catch up with your cats.
Well, one, I have a bone to pick with you. Fishbone to pick with you, maybe make it cat related. Why is there still an empty space on your wall? Because I know for a fact that you have a Max painting. Where is it?
It's downstairs in the family room right now. And it's staring at me every night on the sofa, but I am going to bring it. I'm going to try, I guess I'll put it above my head, kind of like next to Cushy there, between Cushy and Checkers. But yeah, the kids got me a Max painting for Mother's Day. And
we've been talking about him for over a year, and you guys finally get to see him.
Yeah, they made him a gangster.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah, so he just doesn't really fit with the rest of the theme, but it's adorable. So
yeah, when I was stuck home recovering from a procedure, I decided to rearrange everything behind me again. And then now I realize that you can't see it.
Oh,
because it's all behind my big head. So I have to rearrange it again. But speaking of like vets and just like crazy things going on, the Rescue Tommy's Cats that I volunteer with has been very busy. Like I know for those who are familiar with the rescue, or just rescue in general, like there's a thing called kitten season. But because the weather's been so warm, our kitten season started early. And I mean, we ran out of fosters again this year. And we've been very grateful for having more than we did last year, but we still ran out of space. So we had a group of kittens through a previous guest that we have, Jackie Berman. We're actually going to be talking about her on a future episode again, because she's just so awesome. but I digress. The kittens that are being fostered for, let me start over. Foster kittens that are being fostered with a first time foster. There we go. I got it out. Just happened to be like a really difficult case with like roundworm, and they had, I always say it wrong, Gasikia. Somebody correct me who's listening. And my friends make fun of me because they're like, you know what it is. How come you can't say it? But they've all been treated for it, but because of all the antibiotics and they're so tiny, they were like between 2 and 3 pounds. Their stomachs are destroyed. So unfortunately, Rose's first experience and her husband is with poopy kittens, and it's not fun at all. So if you know anybody who's doing fostering, give them a high five because it's a lot of work. But I promise you, it's so rewarding. But yeah, they're going through a tough time. So we keep doing stool samples, and for people who aren't familiar with fosters, just because they're sick, we don't just like run them right to the vet, because otherwise we'd have no money to help any other cats. So we actually work closely with veterinarians, and we work closely with vet techs and people who are seasoned on how to treat them. And it's just a long process, because think about you when you're sick. You can't just like throw everything at it and then hope you're going to feel better. You have to do it in steps. Like you have to kind of see, okay, what are the symptoms? What's going on? Okay, we don't want to change too many things at once. Like you don't want to change all of their food and give them a probiotic and put them on antibiotic. Like it would just create like a literal poop storm.
Yeah, really.
Show, I should say.
Well,
We talk about poop a lot, don't we? I don't know why.
Well, I had Max on antibiotic when he was a kitten, and it gave him bad diarrhea.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, fosters are great. I did babysit a cat when we lived in Atlanta once, a kitten. Some people had just gotten it and they were going on vacation. So I kept it at my house, and it was adorable. And I did give it back to them, which I was very proud of myself for being able to do that.
Not everybody could do that.
Yeah, but
no, I'm actually okay with kittens, and it's weird. Like because I know that they're so popular and people will find them. Like unless I make a real connection with them, like I did with Loki. I prefer the older cats that are like being left over. I like to give them a chance, and that's just my thing. And there's certain people that they only foster kittens or they only foster senior cats.
Right. So what's the name of the foster group that you work with?
Well, so Tommy's Cats is the rescue. We're focused on TNR, which is trap, neuter, return. The idea is that if there's local people in the community who find cats outside, we help with getting them trapped and getting them spayed or neutered, getting them vaccinated and, rabies shots. And if they're friendly, we then partner with local fosters or with other local organizations that handle the adoption side. Because there's only like 2 or 3 of us really. Well, 4, including one of our fundraisers. And we only have 1 foster. So the fact that more fosters have been coming out, they're not really a foster organization. They just foster for local rescues. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So Jackie was one of them, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then she introduced me to 2 other people who I've actually become very close friends now, which is awesome. And one of them is actually going to be a future guest in a couple of weeks.
Yay.
And yeah, it's just been great. So it's a lot of work. There's some crying involved and like, bickering back and forth sometimes with some miscommunications, but at the end of the day, it's all for the animals.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And then as far as my cats go, Luffy has been weird since he came back in from his outdoor adventure. For those who are not aware, Luffy is my latest foster fill who found us, who apparently had been living right around the corner from my house for 6 to 8 years, according to the age estimate from my vet. And so since he's been in, we keep him inside. We don't let him out. And he happened to be like staring down a bird or a squirrel or something that he just lost it and just like charged at it and then wound up being gone for a day and a half because he couldn't get back in the house because he realized the door doesn't just magically open for him. But since then, in the beginning, he like wouldn't even go by the back door. And anytime any of my other cats went by the back door, he'd start smacking them like, no, it's dangerous out there. Don't go over there. But now he's been funny where he loves playing. But if anybody initiates play with him first, he starts growling like a dog.
That's funny.
Like the weirdest thing. So now I don't know if he's not feeling well. He's eating okay, like certain things. He's not eating his normal food. But I learned this week that he likes turkey and he likes steak. He's got really high taste.
Smart cat.
And then I don't know if you do this, but like, do you have like a random food that's not that healthy, but like when you're not feeling well, you're like crave it?
Sometimes, yeah.
Mine's like a bologna and cheese sandwich on rye. I have no idea why. But like yesterday, I wasn't feeling well at all. I didn't want to cook. So I did Instacart to get groceries from ShopRite. And I made myself a bologna and cheese sandwich for dinner and learned that Tony Bologna likes bologna, so his name is
Oh,
appropriate. And
uh,
Derek and Luffy both like it too, but Thor didn't. He was just like, ew, what is this garbage? I want my turkey.
I try to
So,
give my cats meat and they don't like it. Max likes lunch meat a little bit.
mhm.
Like I made some really good chicken and I tried giving them a little bite. They don't like it. They're just like, no.
Yeah, well, I was buying like an organic, like fresh brand, but it still had like the peel of like the turkey on the outside. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and they weren't chewing it because they're monsters and they just were sucking it down. So then they kept spitting it back up. I'm like, well, I'm not buying the $6 turkey if you're just going to spit up and make me clean it up all the time. So
Yeah,
anyway, we talk about
that's
gross stuff, but that's the life of having animals.
that's what a vet told me once. It's like, yeah, cats don't really chew their food. They just kind of inhale it.
Yeah. And then poor Luffy, he's missing so many teeth because he's a little old man apparently. And I'm gonna have to get a side-by-side shot because we're estimating now Luffy and Thor to be about the same age.
Oh,
Luffy is about 6, 7 pounds and like tiny. And now that I know he's older, even though that's not that old, he like moves very slow, like very cautiously. Whereas Thor is like 14 pounds and my vet wants me to have him lose some weight. But he does run around like a little lunatic. I sent you a video yesterday, Elizabeth, of him just like randomly like
yeah.
meowing at the wall. And then
Yeah.
for anybody who's familiar with what parkour is, he literally just was like, nah, and like parkoured off the wall and just flew up the stairs. And I was like, are you okay? Did you get into some drugs somewhere that I don't know about?
Oh, we had something. So sometimes Max will go after Lily and I don't know if they're playing, if she likes or not. But then I was sitting on the deck yesterday and they were in the backyard and Max was on the grass and Lily was in the bushes. And Lily came tearing out of the bushes and jumped on Max and wrestled him. So I guess she likes it. At
That's
least when she's
crazy.
outside. I know. It
Yeah,
was
so our cats keep us pretty busy. If it's okay with you, Elizabeth, I want to kind of set us up for our guest that's coming up in a couple of weeks and
yeah,
like
of
kind of share the backstory of why we're having her on. So I
course.
mentioned before about Jackie. So Jackie and I have been friends for a while. She's actually been a previous person on here because she's very, very passionate about making sure people have a plan in place for their pets, plan in place for their pets. I don't know why I do that to myself. Um, if anything were to happen to them. So she's really big on like having like a trust or like a will and like directives and stuff. So we have her information on our website if that's something you'd like to learn more about, because you don't want it to be where something happens to you and gosh forbid your beloved family pet winds up like in a shelter. Shelters will do their best, but that's still, to be ripped from their home, lose their parents and then have that happen. And the reason that I wanted to bring that up is for twofold. One, about the guest I'm about to talk about, but two, because we have seen such an uptick through the rescue of people saying, like, my neighbor passed. We need to, find somewhere to put these pets ASAP. Or my favorite aunt in the whole world passed away unexpectedly. I need to do what's right and find them a home. My take is that if those pets were your family and you loved your family, you should take in those pets. Like make
Yeah.
it work or at least try. Reach out to a rescue or an expert that can help you integrate that pet into your home versus just like bring them to a shelter. Do you get what I'm trying to say, Elizabeth?
I do. And the other thing about that, Danielle, is I've read stories in these different magazines and stuff about people who didn't want a pet, but like one came to them and they'd never had one before or whatever. And it ended up like saving their life or being like really important in their life. Like those animal rescue stories you read about, like,
Mm-hmm.
and these are people that like, they're like, I don't want this pet, but I'll take it because I have to. And then it ends up like, and sometimes being their best friend. So yeah, I agree with you. If one of my kids my son has dogs, that would be tough for me. But if he had cats, I would definitely take him if anything happened.
Yeah, but at least you would try. It's the thing. And there's so many misconceptions of like, oh, I have a cat, I can't have a dog, or oh, I have a dog, I can't have a cat. You can at least try as long as you introduce everybody, you know, appropriately and try. But if it's not a fit, then also don't force it because then that's not right for the
Right.
dogs or the cats or whomever.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
So
as far as Jackie goes, she unfortunately lost her kitty cat that she had talked about, Layla, and she was very upset, obviously. And I knew it was like her last little furry family member because all her other animals had aged and passed away. And so I had called her to say, I'm so sorry. How are you doing? And she's like, I actually was just looking online to see, like, I think what would help me feel a little bit better in grieving her passing is maybe if I fostered. And she's like, what do you think? And I said, well, I'm about to go head out into the snow because this is a couple of months back. And I could really use a foster. There's 3 cats that people were living there, and they just dumped the cats outside and moved. And they were tenants. Like, there are laws against abandoning animals, but after I consulted with a couple of people about like what should I do to report them, there was like not enough proof that they were their cats. They could just say that they were outdoor cats, But
Yeah.
so she's like, oh, well, I have a spare room. Like, if you help me set it up, I'd be happy to help. And at the time, we didn't know if they could be all adopted. One had an ear tip, 2 didn't. And it turns out they were all friendly. So at first she's like, 1 or 2, she's like, maybe it'll work out where I'll wind up adopting them. She's like, I would like another pet, but if not, no big deal. Those can get adopted and we'll look elsewhere. Turns out all 3 were friendly. So she went from having her 1 cat to having no cats to fostering 3 cats. And they were a little bit older too. They're like 3 or 4 years old already, but you could tell that they were all close. The first cat, and I'm going to let her tell her story in more detail next time when she's on. But the first cat, she said what you said, Elizabeth. She's like, I was not expecting how much I needed this cat in my life. Like, this cat is now my best friend. But then she couldn't let the other 2 go, and she wound up adopting all 3.
Jackie. That's what happens. Yeah.
So, but then she introduced me to a couple other people. The woman Rosa they mentioned, who's been wonderful. She's fostering cats. She's actually fostered 3 other older cats that were hard to place, just because people didn't want them because they weren't kittens, and they've all found happy homes. And then Yolanda, who's going to be coming on, she has a really cool story. So I'll let her tell that story. But it's just like, I'm just really harping on the fact that everybody should try fostering at least once. And if you fail, you're not really a failure, because it's going to make your life better.
Well, if I could talk my husband and my cats into it. So Max, we tried to train him to be really sweet and everything, but he growls when people come in that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
And he's not sweet. And he's sweet to us sometimes.
He's just territorial, it sounds like.
Very territorial.
Luffy growls at everybody, but he follows me around like a little puppy. That's why his name's Puppy D. Luffy.
Right. Max will lay next to me and stuff. I mean, you've seen all the pictures I've sent you.
Yeah.
Constant stream of pictures of Max snuggling me. But anyway, so I don't know how I would do it. I'd have to have the foster in a separate room, I guess, or something.
Yeah.
So
we can talk about that separately, because we're going to do a whole thing.
Yeah.
I feel like every episode we talk about all the other stuff we're going to talk about. And that's how we have an ongoing thing, because we have so much to talk about. But with that said,
yes, we need to go.
So thank you guys for listening. We really encourage you to be active on our Facebook community, even though we haven't been, because I've had some health stuff going on. But I love that people are posting in there and sharing cat stories. We're going to talk about a couple of things that were shared in there too. And check us out at thejerseypodcats.com, on YouTube, and where you listen to your favorite podcast player.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening. Let's keep the conversation going. Give this podcast a rating so other cat lovers can find it. Connect with the Jersey PodCats on social media, or visit thejerseypodcats.com and leave a message sharing a story or question about cats. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll catch you in the next episode.